This explainer is provided by Consult Safety and Engineering.
Now, most of us know Chernobyl as a terrible, horrific accident. But what if I told you it wasn't really an accident at all? Today, we're going to dig into how a whole chain of ignored warnings and broken procedures turned a nuclear power plant into a ticking time bomb, and how that bomb finally went off.
You know, in the early hours of April 26, 1986, people in the city of Pripyat, right next door, saw this terrifyingly beautiful glow in the sky. They had absolutely no idea that what they were looking at was a cloud of invisible, deadly poison spreading through the air.
So how did this happen? How does a supposedly routine safety test spiral into a global catastrophe in literally just a matter of seconds?
Just think about that for a second. In only 43 seconds, everything went from a controlled test to the complete and utter destruction of a nuclear reactor core. And here's the most chilling part. The emergency shutdown button, the one thing that was supposed to be the ultimate failsafe, that was the very thing that triggered the explosion.
In the chaos that followed, of course, the world demanded answers. And the first official reports, well, they pointed the finger at one very simple target: the people who were in the control room that night.
Look, the story of a few reckless operators was easy. It was convenient. But as investigators really started digging, a much more disturbing truth came to light. The operators, they were working inside a broken system, and they were trying to control a machine that had a fatal flaw they didn't even know existed.
So what was this fatal flaw? What was the secret danger lurking deep inside the RBMK reactor that could turn a shutdown procedure into a detonator?
Okay, so the job of a control rod is really simple. Just think of it like the brake pedal in your car. You push it in, the reaction slows down, and eventually it stops. That's how it's supposed to work, right?
And this right here, this brings us to the crazy central paradox of the RBMK 1000 reactor. That button, the one meant to save everyone, was, in that one specific, terrible moment, the very thing that sealed their fate. This is it. This is the fatal flaw. The control rods, the brakes, were tipped with graphite. See, the water in the reactor core normally helps to slow the reaction down, but when they hit that shutdown button, the graphite tips pushed all that water out of the way before the main part of the rod could start absorbing neutrons. For just a few seconds, the reaction didn't slow down, it surged uncontrollably. Instead of hitting the brakes, they had, without knowing it, slammed their foot on the accelerator.
But you know, a design flaw, even one this dangerous, doesn't cause a disaster all by itself. It needs a broken process to really unleash it. And this is where we get to the true root cause, something we now understand through a safety concept called management of change. It shows us exactly how this catastrophe was allowed to happen.
Okay, so think of management of change, or MOC, like a formal permission slip you absolutely have to get before you change anything in a super high-hazard place, like a nuclear plant. It's a whole process designed to make sure every single risk is found and dealt with before you do anything.
And when you look at Chernobyl through this lens, wow, it is a complete and total breakdown. At every single critical step of the process, there was a major failure. They misidentified the test, they didn't assess the real risks, they assumed they had approval, they authorized it themselves, and then they just changed the procedure as they went along.
So, and this is the crucial point, these failures created the perfect storm. They called it an electrical test, so the nuclear experts never even saw the plants. They didn't get formal approval from the designers. The instructions they had were vague and confusing. And then, maybe worst of all, a 10-hour delay meant this dangerous, ill-prepared test was handed off to a brand new shift that had no idea what they were walking into.
The consequences of this unmanaged experiment, of this complete failure of process, they were felt immediately, and they are still being felt decades later all across the world.
The first people to pay the ultimate price were the plant workers and the firefighters. These heroes walked right into a radioactive inferno, with no idea what they were facing, and they sacrificed their lives trying to stop it. And the cost just rippled outwards from there. 350,000 people were forced to leave their homes forever. Whole cities, like Pripyat, became ghost towns overnight, their residents leaving with literally just the clothes on their backs. And this disaster, it didn't respect any borders. Radioactive clouds drifted all across Europe, contaminating an area the size of Great Britain and leaving an environmental scar that will last for thousands of years.
You know, in the end, as the chief investigator Valery Legasov said, you can't find a single person to blame. It was a complete, systemic failure of safety culture. was like a closed circle where every single check, every balance, and every procedure had already failed long before anyone ever pushed that button.
Understanding this complex chain of failures from our past, it's really the only way we can ever hope to build a truly safer future.
This explainer was put together using detailed reports and analyses from some of the world's leading agencies, whose incredible work continues to help us all understand the profound lessons of Chernobyl. Thanks for joining us.